Almost every single school district in the state of Florida has seen their kids who passed their standardized tests slip over the last 20 years. That probably includes the kids at your kid's school as well. So we're trying to figure out why, and this is basically what we've come up with. I'm excited to tell you more about this investigation, this look into deep data sets about local schools. But before I do, I want to thank today's sponsor. That's Cindy Zimmerman, CindyZSellsHomes.com. She's a local realtor here in the Niceville area, and she is your go-to gal for everything real estate. Check her out, CindyZSellsHomes.com.
Ms. Somerset? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mossy Head School Principal Leslie Hewlin stays busy all day. She worked her way up the ladder to principal a couple years ago, but has served the students of the area since the campus opened in 2005. But just because she's the top teacher at Mossy Head doesn't mean she gets to clock out when the school day ends. It kind of means the opposite for her. Twice a week, she hops into a beat-up Chevy minivan as old as the Mossy Head School itself, and it's older than all of her students, and she crisscrosses the roads, paved in dirt, of North Walton County to take home students who just need some extra tutoring. It's the part she plays to make sure the students get help no matter what.
You know, we've got to make sure that our students are getting that year's worth of knowledge in that year and exceeding that. So that gave us an opportunity to sort of look at that group of students who were right on the cusp of making that learning gain. They were right on the cusp of moving to that next level. And so, you know, we saw those numbers at 72%. So that was huge, and that's a number that we're proud of.
We did a little bit of statistical analysis and included every single school from Tallahassee all the way west to Pensacola and found some interesting things. Here's what we learned. We found that kids from this area, at least the ones that need free and reduced lunch, tend to perform worse on their standardized testing. That's consistent with just about every research paper that's ever been published on student learning outcomes ever. Nothing new there. The relationship for these two variables in our area, at least, is weakest amongst elementary schoolers, but is very strong for combined schools, middle schools, and high schools. So for a school like Mossy Head, where 6 of every 7 students needs free and reduced lunch, you would expect bad results. After all, studies show high free and reduced lunch program usage pretty much guarantees bad test scores. This data set might initially make you believe that you should just write these kids off at Mossy Head School. That's why it's so interesting. Thanks to a couple of very specific factors, these kids are not getting left behind just because of the zip code that they were born into. You see, Mossy Head should be rated a C school based on the data that we compiled from the Florida Department of Education and other sources, based on its free and reduced lunch users alone. But get this, they're an A. What's crazier is that they've been an A school for years. This performance isn't just a one-time fluke. And it's not just Mossy Head, where they've had Principal Hewlin's bus program. 12 of the 14 public schools in Walton County overshoot the scores they should get based on their demographics. Only 54% of schools in Okaloosa County can say the same, despite having the same median income, more or less, as Walton County. Walton County Superintendent of Schools Crestview High School alumni, Russell Hughes, was elected to his job after a close race in 2016 when the district was in the middle of the pack performance-wise, way behind Okaloosa County. Walton County is now the 4th place school district statewide, just behind Nassau and Santa Rosa counties. Walton County got 70% of the total number of points possible, which is based on test scores as well as other things like overall student improvement. That's an improvement from 59%, where Walton was in 2015. That's the year before Hughes took over. Okaloosa's percentage of total points dropped with COVID, but has since seen some recovery. But Okaloosa County is far from alone in its decline over the last 20 years. With the exception of Walton and Lafayette County, which has a little over 2,000 students in total, every other school district in the state of Florida has seen a decline in their test scores. We reached out to the Florida Department of Education, which of course oversees all of the schooling in the 4,400 plus public schools here in the state of Florida. They haven't gotten back to us, so we're going to run with this story anyway, and if they do add something, we'll update the story. Okaloosa County schools have seen their test scores decline in general, but the decline has been slower in the Niceville area. The Niceville area schools have continued to outperform what their poverty numbers suggest as well. Of the 7 Okaloosa County public non-charter schools, all but one school, Eglin Elementary, got an A. When we account for the number of kids needing free and reduced lunch, the numbers tell a little bit of a different story. 3 schools, Plough, Lewis, and Ruckle, outperformed their expected statistic, producing better results school-wide than expected based on their free and reduced lunch numbers. 2. Edge and Niceville High School came up even with their poverty expectations. The final 2 schools, Bluewater and Eglin, were below where statistics would have expected them to be based on our model. So with Walton County Schools mostly overperforming and Okaloosa County having more mixed results, what can we learn from the people over at Walton County about how they're doing things in order to have success in the classroom and on those standardized tests? Principal Hewlin's VAN program makes a lot of sense. They assure me that their internal data is proof positive that it works, but it can't give me individual student records to prove it. We decided to look into the differences between the operation of Okaloosa and Walton County school districts to see if we could glean other factors that could be at play. We found 2 other big differences. Neither really have anything to do directly with what's happening inside the classroom on a daily basis, though. First off, the Walton County School District pays teachers a lot more than Okaloosa County does, and not just for teachers fresh out of college. Educational professionals like Ashley Peeler wake up every morning in Niceville and make the drive to Walton County Schools. She happens to work at Mossy Head School. She loves the kids and the teaching mission, but she could have that in Okaloosa County too. She's in Walton County for the cold, hard cash.
Our starting pay, for some reason, which they do a great job of, is a little bit higher than, unfortunately, Okaloosa that I do live in. So that was a huge decision maker.
As teachers and support pros like Ashley increase in tenure, the bigger the difference is between what they get paid and what their colleagues in Okaloosa County come home with. That money, though, didn't arrive magically in their bank account. Superintendent of Schools Hughes fought for and won consistent pay increases for school district staff over the last 8 years. A 97% increase for teachers and a 101% increase for support personnel, starting right after he won that close election for his position 8 years ago. Since the increases started, the district's rankings have increased dramatically. They went from 31st of 67 school districts in the mid-2010s to the number 2 school district overall in 2024.
And every year when we go in negotiations, I talk to my board in executive session and say we're doing well. What we got to do is pay people because I am working them hard. I'm guilty. I work people pretty hard. I work leaders hard, principals hard, teachers hard. We have high expectations. I don't take excuses. Children are at hand. That's our responsibility. So when I talk to our board and say, listen, these people are working hard because I am working them that hard and we're getting results. My board says, okay, pay them, compensate them, and they work harder. They understand that we're not giving anything away, but with this comes high expectations. We have a standard, we have a mantra, we have goals.
The second factor is it's just too expensive to live here in Niceville and collect a teacher's salary. It just doesn't work out. The math doesn't work. The lack of affordable, attainable, or whatever we're calling it now, housing, could really hamper Niceville's long-term prospects. Just ask Niceville Principal Charlie Morello. He's in charge of everything Niceville High School, including hiring teachers who can teach students enough to maintain the school's 20-plus year A rating streak. Despite being the best public non-charter high school in the county in standardized test performance, Morello has a very difficult time finding teachers. After all, they gotta live somewhere.
Past ensuring the safety and security of your students, faculty, and staff, the most important thing that a principal does is who you hire to bring into the building. That's a process that you put a lot of work into, and then you find these amazing candidates and you want them to be a part of what we do here at Niceville High School. But there have been some challenges when it comes to folks who are not from the local area who maybe aren't familiar with the cost of living in Niceville, in particular the housing market. There was an example not just a few years ago of a jam up out of state from Georgia, a teacher, coach. We're looking at maybe a head coach of a premier program here. And his resume was so decorated that this wasn't going to be a sit-down interview. This was an over-the-phone type of, you're somebody we want to be at Niceville High School, and it wasn't just kind of a. I think we came to agreement that we were going to work this out, and then he had not researched the housing market, and then called and said, I've talked about it with my family, and there's no way we can afford to live in Niceville. And being, if he were to have been a head coach of a sport, you wouldn't want to live in Crestview or Freeport and drive 25 minutes because you're going to be here late a lot. So that, as quickly as I got excited and we thought that we were going to work that out, is as quickly as it ended.
More than 2/3 of the county's GDP, that's gross domestic product, the stuff that they make, the money they make, comes from Eglin's operations alone. So everybody, from the county commissioners to the guy making your sandwich at Subway, is very concerned about asking the base for too much land and accidentally killing the goose that laid the golden egg by taking too much and making other testing sites, looking at you, Nellis, more attractive to military planners who don't want to have to deal with pesky apartment complexes for their airmen so close to those places that, well, they happen to bomb and also train on. But there is some hope for a compromise that could open up land for affordable development and ease the problem of teacher recruitment in Niceville specifically. But so far, the Air Force's attempts to offload the land to local government to sell it in turn to developers to build housing have moved at a snail's pace. Niceville, Okaloosa County, and Valparaiso are all at various steps of the process to get land from the Air Force Base. Nothing is guaranteed at this point. That leaves the last large tract of land, Deer Moss Creek, and the thousands of pieces of land with aging homes on them as the best choices for places to build affordable housing in Niceville. Well, if you look at Deer Moss Creek, homes for sale in that subdivision currently sell for between $600,000 and $1 million, so not really an option. The land available in a quarter or half acre increment looks to be the only way, at least right now, to create affordable housing in Niceville to alleviate the expensive costs for public servants and other middle class roles in the Mid-Bay area. In an industry where buying everything from screws to land gets cheaper in bulk, the premium for small plots of land means smaller, unattractive margins for builders who want to create housing for working people so that they can purchase something near Eglin. Niceville High School alum, entrepreneur, and developer Paul Schoberg has encountered this issue from both angles. He thinks that the Okaloosa County School District will have to work with developers like him to advocate for what he calls middle-tier housing for teachers at planning and zoning boards and city council chambers across the county, so skilled professionals communities rely on, like nurses, police officers, and firefighters, can live a reasonable distance from their job and pay a reasonable rate.
Niceville has a lot of single-family homes. Niceville doesn't have a lot of small square footage property for people to start their lives out in. And it's just been that way historically. The builders build single-family homes because there was a demand for them, and no one really thought too far ahead about building kind of smaller square footage stuff. We have some apartment complexes, but not very many.
While certain schools like the elementary, middle, and high schools in Niceville seem to be more insulated from the drops in test scores, they will have seen slight decreases over the last decade and a half, according to our data. That follows the general pattern of all school districts throughout the state's 67 counties. For almost a decade, Niceville area realtor Cindy Zimmerman has helped people buy and sell houses in Okaloosa County.
I think if you see them continue to go down, I do think that will happen, but it does beg the question, why are our scores going down as opposed to Walton County's going up? If they can do things to improve, what are we not doing that they're doing? And I do think if it continues, like I said, you're gonna start seeing that show up. People are going to start talking.
She's recently become an advocate for the deep data sets that come from Homes.com, especially their tools concerning local schools. She believes that the investment a multi-billion-dollar company like Homes.com has made in the tools and the fact that they've made them available to the public tells you all you need to know about the continued importance of standardized test scores and overall performance in the real estate market.
Yeah, so I think for real estate, for a big company, to go out there and spend the resources to put out the amount of information that they put out there on schools tells you that they believe that schools and school ratings and all of that is very important to people when they're considering a move to an area.
So just to recap, Okaloosa County Schools were the second best school district in all of Florida in 2004. They've dropped about to the middle of the pack here in the last year, 2024. Only one of the 4 large high schools in the county, Niceville High School, is an A-rated school, and there seem to be a couple of factors as to why this is exactly. First and foremost, from what it looks like, thanks to our neighbors in Walton County, teacher pay really matters. You can see a difference of about $5,000 between a first-year teacher in Okaloosa County and a first-year teacher in Walton County. That gap expands to $9,000 difference in pay between a 15-year tenure teacher in Okaloosa and one in Walton. And then it's just really hard to find a place to live here in Okaloosa County that's not super expensive. A lot of the less expensive housing is going to be further up in Defuniak Springs, somewhere in that area. So Okaloosa County is facing an uphill battle because not only do they pay less, but it's more expensive to live here. That's one of the biggest issues that they face right now. So all this leads to a really hard question. What do we do about it? Well, it seems like we have a couple of choices, right? We can raise pay, which might mean a raise in taxes, or we can accept the fact that Okaloosa County might be a B school district for some period of time. I'd love to know what you guys think, and if you'd share your thoughts in the comments, other ideas, stuff like that. Comments is a section, a forum for that. It's also probably going to have some trolls in there, but whatever. Put your comments down there. Let's engage in a constructive conversation. I'll reply to all the comments, but in the meantime, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one of these really long videos from midbaynews.com.